Hi, a lot of subscribers found me through the Warframe content that I've made, and ever since the end of my partnership program, I have less reasons to be making Warframe videos, not to mention that I've been playing Warframe for more than half a decade, so I was also looking for something else that I could analyze. And I think I found the game I want to direct this channel, which is Naraka: Bladepoint. It's new, it's fun, and it has a lot of depth for its genre. So in this video, I'm going to compare the two, and I'm going to give you a reason why you should try this game out. It goes without saying that the game is third person like Warframe, and there's wall climbing, wall running, double jumps, sliding, just like Warframe. But what it does not have is bullet jumping, which is something I've talked about before in another video, why I think bullet jumping is bad. And it also makes PvP too frustrating to deal with, which is one of the reasons I believe Warframe PvP could not appeal to the majority of players that actually likes PvP. However, in Naraka, there is something quite similar to bullet jumping, something much more subtle, which is grappling hooks. You will need something to hook to, and there is a slight delay before you start dashing from one point to another. This makes it counterable and easy to predict while giving the user a form of mobility. Grappling hooks are items that you pick up while looting, and they take up inventory space, which also means it's limited use depending on the amount that you find and choose to keep. So it's not something that you want to spam every second of the way like you do in Warframe, although you could find a generous amount of grappling hooks all over the map. Grappling hooks can be used on opponents, staggering them and allow you to pull yourself towards them. That way you can fight with them at close range. This is part of the reason why the game could ultimately force you into close combat. Just like Warframe, there is a great incentive to be using melee weapons in fights. Although the reason for doing so is different, for example in Warframe, it's mostly because it's efficient when clearing mobs in tight spaces. Naraka has that grappling hook that closes range between you and the enemy. Then with the staggering effects of your melee attacks, it makes it very difficult for the enemy to fight you with a ranged weapon, forcing them to switch over to melee as well. Just like in Warframe, different types of melee weapons have their own unique combos and effects. They could also do slam attacks, heavy attacks which are known as focus strikes, wall hanging attacks, slide attacks, jump attacks. They even have an attack that knocks enemies in the air, kinda like a sword version of an uppercut, and more. Unlike Warframe, their melee combat system is much more fun and advanced in such a way that the types of melee attacks you do has counters, which gives players who aren't just smashing buttons an advantage. For example, there are 3 attack types, namely the common attack, focus attack, and counter strike, which basically is a parry. Common attacks can't be parried, but it can be broken by focus attacks. Then focus attacks does not get staggered by common attacks, but can be parried with a counter strike, in which it could disarm you. And finally, Counter-Strike does nothing to common attacks, but it can parry focus attacks. So if you know what attack type is coming at you, you can easily counter it with its counter. Now just like how slam attacks can be found within a melee combo in Warframe, a slam attack and focus attack can also be a part of a melee combo in Naraka. Which means if you have a good understanding of the different weapons and their combos, you can time for those focus attacks and do a parry, penalizing your opponent greatly by disarming them. For example, Katana's left click combo does a common attack for the first 2 clicks, but a focus attack on the third, which means you can prepare your counter strike for the third attack. That is, if your opponent does not cancel his combo on purpose, which could happen at high level fights. And if you notice he's trying to avoid focus attacks so that he doesn't get disarmed by your counter, then you can do a focus attack instead and break his common attack. There are a lot of mind games involved, and it's super satisfying when you pull off a bluff or successfully read your enemies like a book. When it comes to ranged weapons in Naraka, it's also very similar to any other ranged weapons in most games, including Warframe. Only difference is that the weapons here seems to be all projectile based, therefore there's no hit scan, which makes much more sense in my opinion given the era the game is set at. This also makes relying on ranged weapons only incredibly unreliable and is used more for third partying or poking when the enemy is at a distance. However, when it comes to team fights, enemies fighting your allies in close range gives you a great opportunity to take them down with ranged weapons. Because it cannot be blocked or countered, not only do they not move around as much when they are in a melee combat, but they are also occupied and might not be able to initiate an attack on you if your ally is doing a good job. So okay, the character movement and the weapons is quite relatable to Warframe, but Warframe has abilities. Well, guess what? So does the characters in Naraka. Each class has 2 unique abilities ranging from fireballs to going invisible. You could even silence players or transform into a god. I'll talk more about their abilities and how to use them in the future video, but basically I'm just saying that they have abilities too. Moving on. But I guess the main issue here is not about how the character feels or what the character could do. The elephant in the room is that Warframe is a PvE game. The ability to play for hours and have something to show for in your arsenal. Now, although Naraka is a PvP battle royale, you do gain a type of currency and experience points every time you finish a game. With it, you can purchase different abilities for your characters, introducing different builds, and there's a modding system that ironically is called glyphs, which has unique attributes. You will unlock more slots as you level so that you can equip more glyphs and become slightly stronger than you were after each game. So there is a progression system in place, and for those who believe in fashion frame endgame, the amount of facial customization in this game is really good, not to mention all the skins and costume already in the game that you can unlock just by playing. So yeah, you do get stronger as you play, and you do have something to show for at the end of the day. Now I remember hearing complaints about how Warframe enemies have very predictable AI. To those that feel that way, why not just take a break from AI and play against actual people? Unlike NPCs where you could kill thousands and thousands of them without feeling a thing, just defeating another player can give you way more satisfaction knowing that at that particular moment you were just better, or your strategy was better, or sometimes it's your luck that is just better. Finally, I just want to say that there are way too many games involving guns as their primary way of killing. We have CSGO, Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, Fortnite, PUBG, Rainbow Six Siege, Apex Legends, Doom, Overwatch, Valorant, and the list goes on. I would argue that Fortnite did a really good job in making the game not just about pointing and shooting, but just as much on buildings as well. However, you have to admit that although there can be some strategies involved, pretty much all these games focus mainly on how accurate you are with a mouse and how fast is your reaction time. To me, Naraka Blade Point is very refreshing because in a melee combat, accuracy is not the priority, and it is not so much of reaction time but your timing based on your understanding of the weapon and how you read your opponent. In some ways, it's the way you develop your muscle memory when you see or notice a certain cue. The skills required here is similar to games like Dragon Nest, Blade and Soul, and Kurtzspell for their PvP. I feel like it's also similar to skills that you get from playing games like Monster Hunter, because basically you are looking for cues to react to and not just spamming buttons or spraying bullets. I will be covering this game in detail on my channel, not only because there is a lot to talk about that I did not touch on this video, but also because I would most likely be playing it when it's released and I want to know as much as I can about the game. Hopefully you'll stay tuned for more information on the game and that you will consider giving it a try. Honestly, a lot of people had a great time playing the game, and I think you will too. But of course, it's entirely up to you at the end of the day. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye. So just a little bonus clip here, basically some stuff I found while making the thumbnail of this video. You can see how much issue the character model in Warframe has with the weapon when you watch it frame by frame. You would think that the Nikana and the game being developed for so long that they would fix this. The thing is, I'm sure the person who designed this knew about the mismatch with the sheath and the blade and the hand. It is just not very noticeable to the player, and so they choose not to do anything about it. I just want to put this out there. Anyways, again, I know it's a stretch to go from PvE to PvP, but I mean, you don't have to think of your opponent as players, just instead very good AI or bad.